The snow never stopped falling. It covered the broken land in white silence, hiding scars left by a war no one wanted to remember. The frozen plains stretched endlessly, cold enough to kill anything left alone for too long. Even the wind moved carefully here, as if afraid to wake what had already suffered enough. Two massive shapes lay half buried in the snow. They were dragons, not legends, not stories. Real, ancient beings whose wings once darkened the sky. Their scales, once bright as polished steel, were now cracked and dull with frost. Heavy chains wrapped around their necks, wings, and legs, black metal biting deep into frozen flesh. Every slow breath sent clouds of mist into the air. They were dying. The larger dragon lifted its head slightly, muscles shaking under the weight of the chains. One glowing eye burned faintly blue, the other dimmed to a weak gold. Pain filled its gaze, but something else was there too, anger old and remembered. "We should have burned them all," it growled, its voice low and rough, barely louder than the wind. The second dragon did not answer at first. It was smaller, its scales pale white, stained dark where blood had frozen. A long chain connected them, forcing them close even in misery. When it finally spoke, its voice was tired. "They were not worth it," the smaller dragon said. "Nothing is worth this." Far beyond the frozen plains, steel ships hovered in the sky. They were not shaped like anything born of this world. Sharp edges, glowing engines, and silent weapons marked them as visitors, invaders. Symbols of the Dominion shone on their hulls, cold and exact. The war had started without warning. One moment the skies were clear. The next, fire rained down from above. The Dominion had come for control, for power, for resources. They had not expected resistance. They had not expected dragons. At first, the dragons won. Fire met metal, claws tore through ships. Ancient magic cracked shields no weapon had ever broken. Entire fleets vanished in burning wreckage. The Dominion had watched in disbelief as creatures they thought were myths destroyed their strongest forces. So they changed tactics. They did not fight the dragons in the sky again. They hunted them. Traps were set using stolen magic and advanced technology. Poison strong enough to weaken ancient blood. Chains forged with materials from dead stars. One by one, the dragons fell. Now only two remained alive on this frozen battlefield. The larger dragon growled again, trying to pull free. The chains rattled but did not break. A sharp pain ran through its body, forcing it still. "They will come soon," it said. "To finish it." The smaller dragon closed its eyes. "Let them. At least the cold will stop hurting." Neither of them noticed the figure watching from the edge of the storm. The human had been walking for hours. His boots crunched softly in the snow as he moved forward, head lowered against the wind. His suit was thick and worn, patched many times. A soft blue light glowed from the tool in his hand, cutting through the white haze just enough to guide him. He had seen the ships fall days ago. He had seen the sky burn. He had survived because humans always did. When his scanners picked up massive life signs ahead, he thought it was a mistake. Nothing this large should still be alive in temperatures like this. Yet the readings were clear, two living beings, massive, weak. As he crested a low ridge of ice, he finally saw them. The human stopped. Even after everything he had seen in his life, this stole his breath. Dragons, chained like animals, bleeding, broken. One of the dragons lifted its head suddenly, sensing movement, its glowing eye locked onto the human. The smaller dragon followed, fear and confusion flashing across its face. "A Dominion soldier!" The larger dragon growled. The human did not raise a weapon. He slowly lowered himself to one knee, placing the glowing tool into the snow. His visor reflected the massive forms before him. "No," he said quietly, "I'm not with them." The dragon stared. The smaller dragon let out a weak laugh. "A single human, they send one of you to watch us die." The human shook his head. "I didn't know you were here." The larger dragon's eye narrowed. "Then leave, we will not beg." The human hesitated, his scanner beeped softly, warning signs flashing red, life signs unstable. "Blood loss critical." "You're chained," he said. "They're coming back, aren't they?" The dragons did not answer. They did not need to. Far above, hidden behind clouds, Dominion sensors adjusted their focus. A signal pulsed through the fleet. Target still alive. Unexpected contact detected. The human stood slowly. He looked small against the massive forms before him, fragile in the endless snow, yet something in his posture changed. Fear was there, but it did not control him. "I don't know why they did this to you," he said, "but I won't let you die alone." The larger dragon laughed, a deep, broken sound. Brave words from something that burns so easily. The human stepped closer. The cold bit through his suit, but he ignored it. He raised his glowing tool, and its light reflected off the chains. "Then you've never seen what humans do when we're angry," he said. Behind him, the storm grew stronger. Above them all, the Dominion ships began to descend. The war was not over. It had just found its most dangerous turning point. The snow thickened as the Dominion ships moved lower, their engines silent but heavy in the sky. The clouds above turned darker, not from weather, but from metal shadows. The frozen land below felt smaller, trapped between the cold ground and the machines that owned the air. The human watched the sky for only a second. Then he turned back to the dragons. The larger dragon's eye followed him closely, full of doubt. The smaller dragon looked away as if it had already accepted the end. "You don't have time," the human said. His voice was calm, but his movements were fast. "If they come down here, they will finish you." The larger dragon let out a weak growl. "Then run, you are free, we are not." The human crouched beside the chain wrapped around the larger dragon's front leg. The black metal looked old and new at the same time, carved with strange, glowing marks. He ran his gloved hand along it, feeling the cold. "This isn't normal steel," he muttered. "No," the larger dragon said. "It is Dominion chain, star-forged, magic-bound, even our fire cannot melt it." The human raised his tool again, the blue glow brightened. The smaller dragon finally looked at him. "That will not work. Humans are soft, weak. You cannot cut what even we cannot break." The human did not argue. He placed the glowing edge against the chain and pressed. A sharp hiss filled the air. The metal did not melt. It did not break. It simply resisted as if the chain itself was alive. The human pulled back, breathing hard. His tool flickered. "Yeah," he said quietly. "That's a problem." The larger dragon's lips pulled back, showing teeth like swords. "Now you understand. Leave." The human stood and looked between the two dragons. His eyes were hidden behind the visor, but his voice carried something steady. "I didn't walk into the dead zone just to leave," he said. The dragons did not understand what he meant. The dead zone was what the Dominion called this place. A frozen battlefield poisoned by radiation, broken magic, and leftover weapons. Most creatures avoided it. Even Dominion troops only came in armored units. The human had come alone. The smaller dragon shook its head slowly. "Why?" The human paused. He looked at the dragons again, and something in his chest tightened. He remembered the burning cities, the screaming, the helplessness of watching the Dominion take whatever they wanted. He remembered being told that humans were small, that humans were nothing. "I'm tired of watching stronger things die," he said. The larger dragon stared at him. For a moment its anger softened, replaced by a cold curiosity. "You speak as if you have lost much," it said. The human nodded once. "We all have." Above them, a new sound entered the storm. A distant hum. The Dominion ships were releasing drones, small, fast machines shaped like black insects. They moved in groups, scanning the ground with red lights. Their weapons were not loud. They did not need to be. Their beams could burn through bone. The human's suit warned him with a sharp beep. He turned his head. "They're searching," he said. The larger dragon tried to move again, but its body trembled. The chains held it like a cage. The smaller dragon whispered, "They will find us." The human looked around quickly. The land was open. No caves, no cover, only ice, snow, and broken stone. Then he saw something, a crack in the ice not far away. A long split like the ground had been torn apart. Snow had filled most of it, but it was still there. A narrow path down. The human pointed. "Can you move?" The larger dragon laughed bitterly. "Look at us." The human did not waste time. He ran toward the crack, boots slipping on ice. He reached the edge and looked down. It was deep, dark, a tunnel of frozen stone. It might lead nowhere, it might lead to death, but it was the only chance. He ran back to the dragons and grabbed the chain connecting them. The metal was cold enough to burn his gloves. He pulled with all his strength. The chain did not move. The larger dragon watched him struggle, and for the first time it looked almost confused. "You cannot pull us," it said. The human kept pulling, muscles shaking. "I'm not trying to drag you," he said through heavy breathing. "I'm trying to move you even 1 inch." The smaller dragon's eye widened slightly. The human stopped and looked at his wrist device. He tapped quickly, sending a signal. Nothing happened. He cursed under his breath. The larger dragon growled. "What are you doing?" The human looked up, calling help. The larger dragon's laughter returned, harsh and broken. "From where? There is no help here." The human didn't answer. He reached behind his back and pulled out a small metal cylinder. He twisted the top, a flare. Bright red light exploded into the storm, rising into the sky like a burning star. It lit the frozen land in red for a brief moment. The dragons stared. The smaller dragon whispered, "You are insane." The human watched the flare rise higher. "If anyone is alive out there," he said, "they'll see it." Above them, the drones changed direction. They had seen it too. The Dominion machines turned like a swarm, heading straight for the flare's location. The human's breathing became steady again. He grabbed his glowing tool and stepped between the dragons and the approaching lights. The larger dragon stared at him. "You would stand in front of us?" it asked. The human nodded. "Yes." The smaller dragon's voice was softer now. "Why?" The human did not look back. His eyes stayed on the storm ahead. "Because I'm human," he said. The drones arrived like death. Red scanning lights cut through the snow. The first drone hovered above the ground, weapon charging. The human raised his tool and the blue glow turned brighter. The drones fired. A beam of white heat sliced toward him. The human moved, fast, not fast like a dragon. Not fast like a machine, fast like something that had survived too many wars. He rolled to the side, snow spraying. The beam struck the ground where he had been, melting ice instantly. He came up on one knee and threw a small device. It landed in the snow and exploded into thick gray smoke. The drones hesitated, their scanners confused. The human sprinted forward through the smoke, his tool humming. He reached the first drone and slammed the glowing edge into its body. The drone sparked and fell. The dragons watched in shock. The larger dragon's eye widened. "That weapon!" The human didn't stop. Another drone fired blindly into the smoke. The beam grazed his shoulder, burning through his suit. Pain shot through him, but he stayed on his feet. He reached the second drone and struck it. Sparks, metal. It dropped. The third drone pulled back, trying to gain distance. The human raised his wrist device again and tapped a command. A small signal pulse shot out. The drone froze midair, its lights flickered, then it crashed into the snow. The human stared at his wrist device in surprise. "Finally," he muttered. The larger dragon growled softly. "You can control Dominion machines." The human turned slightly, still breathing hard. "Not control," he said. "Interrupt. Humans learned a few tricks." The smaller dragon whispered, almost in disbelief, "A lone human fighting drones in the dead zone." The human stepped back toward the dragons. But the storm was not finished. More drones were coming. And this time something bigger moved behind them. A Dominion ground unit. A walker, tall as a building, with heavy legs that crushed ice with every step. Its body was armored, weapons mounted on its sides. Its front sensor glowed like a single red eye. The human's heart sank. He had hoped for drones only. The dragons stared at the walker, fear returning. The larger dragon's voice dropped into a deadly whisper. "That machine is designed to kill us." The human tightened his grip on the tool. The blue glow reflected on the snow. "I know," he said. The walker raised its weapon. The dragons could not move. The human stood alone. The Dominion had come to finish the job, and the human had only seconds to prove that hope was not a mistake. The walker's red sensor light cut through the storm like a burning eye. It stepped forward, slow and confident, crushing ice under its feet. Each movement sent a deep vibration through the ground. The drones hovered around it like loyal insects, scanning for targets and waiting for orders. The human stood between the machine and the chained dragons. He looked small, almost foolish. The larger dragon watched him with a strange mix of anger and disbelief. "You cannot stop that," it said. The human did not look back. His voice was low. "I'm not planning to stop it," he answered. "I'm planning to make it miss." The walker's weapon began to glow, a long barrel on its right side charged with white heat. The human suit screamed warnings into his ears. He took a breath, then he ran, not away from the dragons, toward the walker. The smaller dragon's eyes widened. "He's going to die." The larger dragon growled, "Humans are madness." The human sprinted across the ice, sliding behind a jagged piece of broken stone. The walker fired. A beam of heat tore across the battlefield, slicing through the air like a blade. It struck the stone and exploded it into steam and shattered ice. The human rolled out of the blast zone just in time. Snow fell heavier, as if the storm itself was trying to hide what was happening. The human pulled out another device from his belt, a flat disc with blinking lights. He slapped it onto the ice and tapped it twice. A low hum spread through the ground. The walker paused, its red eye flickered. For half a second the machine hesitated, confused by the signal. The human didn't waste the moment. He sprinted again, closing the distance. The walker fired a second time. The beam grazed the human's leg, burning through his suit. Pain exploded through his body. He stumbled, almost falling, but forced himself forward. The dragons watched, silent now. The larger dragon's jaw tightened. Its breathing grew heavier. The smaller dragon whispered, "Why does he keep moving?" The answer came from the human's own mouth, though the dragons were too far to hear it. "Not today," he muttered. He reached the walker's leg. Up close, it was even worse. The armor was thick. The metal was layered with Dominion runes, glowing faintly under the frost. It was built to resist magic and fire, built to resist dragons. But the human was not using magic. He was using something the Dominion never respected. Human stubbornness. He climbed. His gloves gripped the walker's plating as it moved. The machine shook, trying to throw him off. He held on, teeth clenched, and climbed higher. The drones swarmed closer, their weapons charging. The human pressed his wrist device again. A burst of signal pulsed outward. 2 drones froze and fell, but the others kept coming. He couldn't stop them all. The walker tried to shake him again. The human reached the top of the leg and slammed his glowing tool into a panel seam. Sparks flew. The panel resisted, but the tool began cutting slowly, blue light eating into the metal. The walker fired again, aiming for the dragons this time. The larger dragon roared. The beam struck the snow beside them, exploding into steam and ice shards. The blast rocked the dragons, shaking their chains. The smaller dragon cried out in pain. The larger dragon's eye flashed brighter. Rage rose inside it, old and powerful. The human heard the roar and looked back. He saw the dragons suffering. He saw the chains digging deeper. His jaw tightened. He pushed his tool harder into the walker's panel. The metal finally gave way. The panel popped open, revealing a glowing core system inside. Wires, energy lines, and a small central unit pulsing with red light. The human's breathing became sharp. "This is it," he whispered. He reached into his belt and pulled out a small black cube, a jammer, a virus key. A human-made weapon built from stolen Dominion tech and human creativity. It was illegal, dangerous, and it was his last card. He pressed it into the core system. The cube latched on. The walker's red eye flickered. Its legs froze mid-step. The drones around it jerked in the air, confused. The walker tried to fire again. Nothing happened. The human smiled through pain. "Yeah," he said softly. "Now you're listening." The machine trembled as its systems fought back. The Dominion had built strong defenses, but humans were experts at finding cracks. The walker's legs locked. Then slowly it collapsed. A mountain of metal falling into the snow. The impact shook the battlefield like thunder. The drones scattered, their formation broken. The human jumped off the falling walker and landed hard on the ice. He rolled, groaning, his injured leg screaming. For a moment he stayed down. The dragons stared at the fallen machine. The larger dragon's voice was quiet, almost shocked. "You brought it down." The human forced himself up, breathing heavily. "Not forever," he said, "just long enough." The smaller dragon's eyes were wide now, no longer dull. Something had changed, hope, but the storm carried another sound. A deep mechanical rumble. The walker was not dead. Its red eye flickered back on. The human's smile vanished. The jammer had slowed it, but the Dominion systems were repairing themselves. The machine's chest opened slightly. A new weapon slid out. Something larger, something meant for one final shot. The human looked at the dragons. He looked at the crack in the ice again, the dark tunnel that could be their escape. But the dragons still couldn't move. The chains were too strong. The human limped back toward them, pain slowing him. The drones were returning, circling above like vultures. The larger dragon's voice became sharp again. "Human, leave us, you have done enough." The human ignored him. He reached the chain between the dragons and examined it again. The metal was covered in glowing runes. Magic. Dominion magic. He lowered his glowing tool and carefully traced the runes. His visor displayed symbols, translating slowly. The human's breath caught. He understood now. The chains were not only metal, they were a binding spell. The Dominion had used dragon blood and ancient words to lock them down. Cutting the chain physically would not be enough. It would simply repair itself. The smaller dragon watched him. "You cannot free us." The human looked up. "Maybe not by cutting," he said. The larger dragon's eye narrowed. "Then how?" The human took a deep breath. He reached into his suit and pulled out a small container wrapped in insulation. Inside was a thin vial of dark liquid. The dragon stared. "What is that?" the smaller dragon asked. The human held it carefully as if it could break the world. "My blood," he said. The larger dragon froze. The smaller dragon blinked. "Your blood." The human nodded. "The Dominion made these chains with dragon blood. That means blood is part of the spell. It's a binding contract." The larger dragon's voice turned dangerous. "Do not speak of contracts with us." The human stayed calm. "I'm not asking you to serve me," he said. "I'm offering a trade." The dragon stared. The Dominion Walker's weapon charged again behind him. The human spoke faster now. "I can't break their spell," he said, "but I can change it." He held the vial up. "If a dragon's blood helped bind you," he said, "then human blood might help rewrite the lock." The larger dragon's breathing grew heavier. "You would give your blood to free us?" it asked. The human's voice was simple. "Yes." The smaller dragon whispered, "Humans don't do that." The human gave a short laugh. "You don't know humans." The walker's weapon fired. A massive beam of heat tore toward them. The human didn't move away. Instead, he smashed the vial against the chain. Dark liquid splashed onto the runes. The chain glowed violently. The dragons roared in pain as the spell reacted. The beam struck the ground only meters away, exploding ice and snow. The human was thrown backward. He slammed into the snow, coughing, vision spinning. The dragons shook, their bodies trembling as the chains lit up with strange colors, blue, gold, and something deeper. The runes changed. The Dominion binding spell was breaking, but it wasn't fully broken yet. The larger dragon looked down at the chain in shock. "It feels different," it said. The smaller dragon's voice trembled. "I can move a little." The human pushed himself up, half blind from snow and pain. He looked at the dragons, blood on his gloves. "Good," he said, "because now," he pointed toward the crack in the ice. "We run." The chains shook again. This time they did not pull the dragons back. The larger dragon felt it first. A sudden lightness in its chest, like a weight it had carried for years, had shifted. The chains still held tight, but they no longer felt absolute. The pain was still there, but it was different now, manageable. "I can move," it said, voice low with disbelief. The smaller dragon tried as well. Its wing twitched, sending snow into the air. The chain rattled but did not stop it completely. "It's working," the smaller dragon whispered. The human was already on his feet, though he leaned heavily on one leg. Blood stained the snow beneath him, but his eyes were sharp. "Don't test it," he said quickly. "Not yet. Move together, slow." Behind them, the Dominion Walker struggled to stabilize. Its system screamed with errors as the corrupted spell spread through the chains. The red eye flickered wildly, unable to decide which threat mattered more. The drones descended lower, firing short bursts that burned holes into the ice around them. "Now," the human said. The larger dragon gathered what strength it had left and pulled forward. The chains resisted, glowing angrily, but they did not lock completely. The smaller dragon followed, stumbling but moving. Together they lurched toward the crack in the ice. The walker fired again. The blast hit behind them, throwing snow and ice into the air. The shockwave slammed into the dragons, knocking them to the ground. The human was thrown forward, sliding across the ice until he hit the edge of the crack. For a moment everything went quiet. Then the storm returned. The human groaned and pushed himself up. He looked back and saw the dragons struggling to rise again. The chains dragged behind them like wounded tails. "Get up," he shouted. "You're almost there." The larger dragon roared, a sound full of rage and effort. It planted its claws into the ice and forced itself forward. The smaller dragon followed, teeth clenched, wings dragging uselessly. They reached the crack. The darkness below waited. The human slid down first, gripping the icy walls. He landed hard at the bottom, pain shooting through his leg. He looked up. "Jump," he called. The larger dragon hesitated. "You want us to fall into darkness?" It growled. The human nodded. "Yes." Another blast struck the surface above, widening the crack. Ice shattered and fell past the human, crashing around him. "There is no other way," he shouted. The smaller dragon moved first. It lowered its massive body and slid into the crack, claws scraping stone. The chains clanged loudly as it disappeared into the dark. The larger dragon followed, roaring as it dropped. The tunnel shook from its weight. Above them, the surface collapsed. The Dominion Walker stepped forward, but the ground beneath it gave way. Ice cracked and broke, swallowing one of its legs. The machine roared with mechanical anger as it tried to pull free. The dragons landed hard in the tunnel, bodies crashing into ice and stone. The humans scrambled back as they filled the narrow space. The tunnel was ancient. Carved long ago by water and pressure, its walls smooth and frozen. Dim blue light reflected from the dragon's eyes, casting long shadows. For a moment none of them spoke. Then the larger dragon exhaled slowly. "We are alive," it said. The smaller dragon laughed weakly. "For now." Above them the sounds of battle faded. The walker could not follow. The drones hovered, scanning uselessly, unable to enter the narrow tunnel. The human leaned against the wall, breathing hard. We need to move, he said. They'll send something else. The larger dragon lowered its head to look at him. Up close, the human was small. The underground chamber was quiet, but it was not peaceful. Cold air moved slowly through the ancient space, carrying distant echoes from tunnels long forgotten. The glowing crystals in the walls pulsed faintly, as if they were alive and watching. The human lay on the ice, breathing shallowly. His suit had sealed the worst of his wounds, but blood still stained the white ground beneath him. His leg burned with pain, and his shoulder throbbed where the drone's beam had hit. The larger dragon watched him closely. "You will die if you rest too long," the dragon said. The human forced a small smile. "Good news," he replied. "I'm very bad at dying." The smaller dragon lowered its head and gently touched the ice near him with one claw. "You should fear us," it said quietly, "yet you trust us." The human closed his eyes for a moment. "Trust comes later," he said. "Right now, we just need the same thing." "Survival," the larger dragon said. "Yes," the human answered, and answers. The larger dragon shifted its massive body and looked toward the far end of the chamber, where the darkness grew thicker. "The Dominion hunts dragons because of what we are tied to," it said, "not because of our fire or strength." The smaller dragon swallowed. "They want the gate." The human opened his eyes. "Tell me." Long silence followed. Then the larger dragon spoke. "Long before humans walked the stars, before the Dominion existed, there were gates between worlds," it said. "Not machines, living pathways, magic bound to reality." The crystals in the walls glowed brighter as the dragon spoke, reacting to the ancient words. "Dragons were made to guard those gates," the dragon continued. "Not to rule worlds, not to conquer, to protect." The human pushed himself into a sitting position, ignoring the pain. "Protect them from what?" The larger dragon's eye darkened. "From what waits on the other side." The smaller dragon shivered. "Things that do not belong in this universe." The human was silent for a moment. He had seen many horrors in his life, wars, experiments, weapons that should never exist. Still, something in the dragon's voice told him this was worse. "And the Dominion?" he asked. "They believe the gate will give them absolute power," the larger dragon said. "Endless energy, control over life, control over time." The human let out a slow breath. "That sounds like them." The smaller dragon looked at him. "You speak as if you know them well." The human nodded. "They destroyed my world." The dragons went still. The larger dragon's gaze sharpened. "Destroyed." The human's voice was flat. "Not conquered, not occupied, broken. They took what they wanted and left the rest to die." Silence filled the chamber again. The larger dragon lowered its head slightly. "Then our enemy is truly the same." A deep rumble shook the ground. Dust fell from the ceiling. The crystals flickered. The human looked up sharply. "They found us." Above them, far beyond the ice, Dominion machines drilled into the frozen earth. They had traced the corrupted spell in the chains like a signal flare. Heavy units moved closer, methodical and patient. "They will not stop," the smaller dragon said. "No," the larger dragon agreed. "They cannot." The human slowly stood, leaning heavily on his injured leg. "Then we don't keep running." The dragons looked at him. "What do you mean?" the smaller dragon asked. The human wiped blood from his glove. "I mean we turn this into a problem they can't solve." The larger dragon studied him. "You have a plan." The human nodded. "A bad one," he said, "but it's all I've got." He tapped his wrist device, projecting a faint blue image into the air. It showed a massive underground structure far beneath them. Ancient, circular, covered in symbols, the dragons froze. "The gate," the larger dragon whispered. "I found records," the human said. "Old Dominion files. They didn't understand what they found under the ice, but they knew it mattered. That's why they kept you alive. They need dragon blood to open it." The smaller dragon's voice shook. "If they open it, everything ends," the larger dragon finished. The human met their eyes. "Then we make sure they never open it." The larger dragon's breathing deepened. Power stirred beneath its cracked scales. The chains glowed faintly, reacting. "You are asking us to fight again," it said. "I'm asking you to choose," the human replied. "Run forever or end this." The smaller dragon looked at the chains, then at the human. "And you?" The human smiled, tired but fierce. "Humans don't run from endings," he said. "We cause them." Another tremor shook the chamber, stronger this time. The Dominion was close. The larger dragon slowly rose to its full height, wings scraping crystal and stone. Despite the chains, despite the wounds, it looked powerful again. "Very well, human," it said. "If the gate must be sealed forever, Then we will be the fire that seals it. The smaller dragon stood beside it, together. The human looked at them, heart pounding. 3 survivors, one last stand. Above them, the Dominion prepared to claim its prize. Below them, an ancient gate waited to be awakened or destroyed. The final war was coming, and this time humanity would not watch from the sidelines. The ground trembled as the Dominion forces broke through the last layer of ice. Machines poured into the ancient tunnels, their lights cutting through the darkness like knives. Heavy boots and metal limbs echoed through the stone. The Dominion had found the gate. The human stood near the edge of the massive chamber, staring at the structure rising from the frozen ground. It was older than memory. A great circular arch made of black stone and glowing lines, pulsing slowly like a living heart. The gate was awake. The larger dragon stepped forward, chains dragging behind it. The smaller dragon followed, wings trembling but steady. "This place remembers us," the larger dragon said. "It knows our blood." The human tightened his grip on his weapon. "Then let's make sure it remembers the right choice." A deep mechanical voice echoed through the chamber. "Stand down." A Dominion commander emerged from behind the machines, tall and armored, its face hidden behind a smooth metal mask. "You are outmatched," the commander said calmly. "The gate will open, history will change, do not resist." The human laughed once, sharp and bitter. "You said that on my world too." The commander turned its head slightly. "Human resistance has always been inefficient." The larger dragon's eyes burned brighter. "You misunderstand," it said. "This is not resistance." The gate pulsed harder. The Dominion began the activation. Energy surged through the chamber, lifting snow and ice into the air. The symbols on the gate flared red. The chains around the dragons burned, reacting violently. The smaller dragon cried out in pain. The human ran to it without thinking. He pressed his hand against the glowing chain, ignoring the heat. "Stay with me," he said. The larger dragon roared, a sound that shook the ancient stone. Power surged through its body, not wild, but controlled, purposeful. "This gate does not open for tyrants," it said. The dragons stepped together, placing their bloodied claws against the gate. The human understood. "This isn't just a lock," he whispered. "It's a choice." The dragons nodded. The Dominion commander raised its weapon. Fire. The machines opened fire. Beams of energy tore through the chamber. The human moved, fast and desperate, throwing himself between the fire and the smaller dragon. His suit burned. His body screamed. Still he stood. The larger dragon saw it. Something ancient changed. The gate's light shifted from red to gold. The chains shattered. Metal screamed as the bindings broke apart, exploding into fragments of dark iron. The dragons were free. The larger dragon spread its wings fully for the first time since the war. The chamber filled with heat and light. "Now," it said. The human slammed his final device into the gate's control stone. It wasn't Dominion tech. It was human, improvised, unstable, perfect. The gate screamed, not in sound but in feeling. The energy reversed. Instead of opening, the gate collapsed inward, folding into itself like a dying star. The pull was immense. Dominion machines were dragged off their feet, crushed and torn apart. The commander tried to escape. The smaller dragon moved faster than thought. Fire consumed the commander in a single breath. The human was thrown backward by the force, slamming into the ice. His vision blurred. The world faded. The last thing he felt was warmth. When he opened his eyes, the chamber was quiet. The gate was gone. In its place was smooth stone, cold and silent. The Dominion forces were destroyed. The dragons stood nearby, free and